For those of you who are nearing despair, this is going to be just me talking. There is relief inside for all of you. Let me do a short introduction on the first block that you saw, the 350 million delivery to the bottom line, which comes to the growing. So what are we going to do on margin by growing the volumes, but also growing the margins in there? And that's going to be a bit of a tag teaming between myself and Michael Friede, our Chief Commercial Officer for Coatings. Again, maybe good to make sure that we understand where we are in our businesses. And again, I want to point out that all the numbers that you see around the growth are 2 percentage points lower. And that's on this chart here. You see the market growth as is indicated by external consultancy. And then you see the next line, which is our adjusted growth rate. So that is what's underpinning our plan. So we have based all of our plans on this reduced number. Again, most of you know this, but just for those of you who want to have a refresher, we have 4 big parts of the company in coatings. In total, it's about a 6 billion euro business in coatings. Powder coatings, where we are clear number 1 in the market, and frankly, also not only having the right quality, network impact, but also being driven forward by mega trends that just support it. Michael will walk you through all those details. Industrial coatings, wood coatings, coil coatings, packaging, beverage packaging coating. There we are a clear number 2 worldwide. Markets that are driven by a number of elements, sustainability being a lot of that, product stewardship, you'll hear more around it, but also the fact that a lot of the construction markets are around the world are bubbling up. So it's been a relatively good market for us, and we think that's going to stay going forward. Marine and protective coatings is I would say, the prodigy child in the organization that had a bit of a rough time the last 4 or 5 years. Marine and protective coatings has extremely strong brands, is a very strong performer, is a very technical business. But in addition, the last 4 or 5 years, both the shipbuilding, but also the protective coatings related to oil and gas have been relatively slow markets. And as a result, this business has only been a fraction of the profitability that it used to be in the past. However, we have clear signs that is changing, and that is extremely good news for us because that used to be the highest performing business in this portfolio. So we've been doing 15 by 20 with, frankly, one of our strongest performance sitting on the bench. Automotive and specialty coatings is then there we're in number 3. As you know, we're not that focused on the automotive industry. This is, of course, vehicle refinish. It's electronics, but also aerospace, and you will see from Michael some of the examples of what we do as exciting businesses there. Leading positions, but a clear choice on where we want to play and where we don't want to play, and an extremely strong revival in total over the past years. On decorative paints, again, the same haircut we took, same downsizing of what the expected growth in the markets is. There we basically have the 3 big blocks. There is the paints EMEA, so Europe, Middle East, Africa. We were a clear number 1 in that market. Very strong positions in the countries that we are in, a very strong business, and lots of things unlocked in a positive way through the pandemic for that business. Paints Asia, a number 3 position. There is almost a country by country play, very high margin businesses for us. And in fact, after a clean out we have done in those businesses until about 3 years ago, you will see some proof points of how these businesses are really taking off. Again, we're somewhat slowed down by COVID and lockdowns, etc., but really clear a lift-off in those businesses. And last but not least, Paints Latin America. Not going to bore you with the whole stories, but there we are a clear number 1, and in fact very excited by the nearing closing of the Grupo Orbis acquisition that will solidify our number 1 position. A very adventurous area, specifically if you look at exchange rates, etc., but our local team has done a fantastic job to stay ahead of the curve and keep performing. Talking about performance, in 2020 we said that as of 2021 we were going to grow in line with the markets and in fact do 1% more than that. Well, that is exactly what happened organically in 2021. The market data shows that on revenue, the paints and coatings market relevant for us grew 11.9%, and we have grown ourselves exactly 12.9%. So year 1 out of our 3-year journey is a tick in the box on where we are. And what you also see on volume, that organically on volume growth, we've been staying in line with the market. Again, I want to remind you, In 15 by 20, volume was really not that important to us. It was getting the company in shape. In 2021, despite having the lead on pricing, despite everything that we did on our portfolio, we really have been able to keep at par here. Again, this will come up. You will hear us talk about volume, but I want to repeat one more time that in our industry, volume is not the key determinant for us, because sustainability is actually pushing product lines into less volume but better margin. In fact, powder coatings is a fantastic trend for us for the bottom line, but it is less volume than liquid, etc. So it's a metric that, frankly, we only talk about once every quarter when we talk to our investor base, because that's not how we look at the market. But a fantastic tick in the box for the first year of our 3-year journey in Grow and Deliver. Lots of the presentation and grow part will be focusing on these growth markets. You may remember that we did something similar 2 years ago in the February investor update, where we looked at the markets, where we are, the big markets, and where we see a really much more positive growth. So we want to give you an update on this. And I also want to remind you that this is not just a random choice of bubbles on a chart, but that it really reflects the ongoing discipline we have on managing our mandates. As you know, we have really started to look at our business about 4 years ago as having these performance units, 140 cells that we look at, put them in a growth mandate, put them in a maintain mandate, etc. There's about 4 different buckets, and this is in fact the result of it. What you'll see is us talking about mostly the blue bubbles up there. Those are the ones that are going to be growing ahead of the market. 2 comments. We will also go into Paints EMEA, because it is a big business for us, and it's often, given the pandemic situation, one that triggers questions, so it's probably justified to give you an update. And last but not least, Marine and Protective is a market that we're in fact pretty enthused about for the next 2 years. Again, as I said, as it really comes out of hibernation, the market comes out of hibernation, and how we kept our positions to really tap into that growth. But enough introduction part here. Let's go to the session where we really start diving into the segments.
Thank you very much, Thierry. Let me walk you to the next slide here and let me give you some more insights on the coatings businesses. Thierry has done a great job already explaining that we run coatings in 4 business units, 3 of them roughly 1.2, 1.3 billion euros in top line, and then the largest one, our industrial coatings business, with 1.9 billion euros in top line. You can see the market growth numbers that we have assumed going forward. Again, Thierry pointed out we've taken a haircut on the externally available market forecast numbers. Just wanted to make sure that that is very clear here as well. We have very leading positions in all of those businesses here, as you've seen from Thierry, and we have extremely strong brands as well in the coatings business units. And what I would like to do is walk you through some of the key growth drivers that will make sure that these coatings businesses will thrive over the next years. And then I will pick some of those blue bubbles you've seen before, the ones that will have extra growth for us, and we'll walk you through them one by one. Now let's move on to the next slide. Here, a couple of growth drivers that really will deliver significant extra growth to our top line here. Starting off on the left, we have sustainability and the energy transition. All of you know that the sustainability trend is driving a lot of change in the coatings industry. We see that impacting our powder business clearly. One of the highest growth drivers, low VOC technology, clearly extremely competitive total cost of ownership for the ones who apply the powder in their plants, and a lot of handling benefits. We also see our packaging business, as you will see later, benefiting from a trend to move away from plastic bottles, replacing them with aluminum cans. And we also see a strong push to our protective business here, especially on the energy transition side, where a lot of new assets are being created that need to be protected by great coatings. Second part of the trend here is hybrid working. All of us have been significantly impacted by Corona and COVID, and a lot of our lifestyle choices have changed. There's much more hybrid work going on. We see a significant positive uptick in our consumer electronics business. We also see this impacting the personal choice for transportation. There's a bit higher trend for individualized transportation, and that is benefiting to a certain degree what we do in our automotive business as well. Now moving on to the last large trend, clearly we have a huge recovery and rebound going on. Some of our businesses have suffered quite dearly. Aerospace, for example, has seen a significant drop because of air traffic had come down quite a bit as part of the crisis here. And the same holds true for our marine business, as you've heard, for Thierry and a few other components that we have in our portfolio. Now the good news there is a clear sign of rebound, and I'll walk you through some of those significant positive trends going forward. Now let me take you into the first of the high growth segments that I want to shine some more light on in detail, and that is the entire powder business. You've heard me say that the trend to more sustainable coatings systems is clearly benefiting what we do in powder there. Again, extremely low or no VOC technology. It allows us now to tap into significantly new substrates as well, with technology that we have developed to bring down curing temperatures for the powder. So it allows us to move out of just metal or mainly metal into new substrates like wood or some plastics as well. What you see on the slide here is that we are the clear number one in the market. We are the market leader, and we are very, very committed to keep that position. And that's why we are tripling our capex, our investments into our capabilities, as we see significant growth in this business, and we want to make sure that our customers can grow with us. Now, if you move to the bottom part of this chart, you see some of the sub-segments in powder, and you can see that there's a particular segment I want to point out, which is the architectural piece, where we see a lot of conversion from formerly liquid technology to powder. We saw that started in Europe and in Asia to a certain degree, and is now coming into North America more and more, and there's a huge growth potential for us going forward there. All the other segments are also growing. What I would like to do is give you a bit more detail from our business unit leader, Daniela Vlad, who has prepared a nice video for you. So please roll the film.
We have been growing nicely with powder coatings over the past couple of years. In the future, in the coming years, we will accelerate our growth with future investments. Our customers are looking increasingly for sustainable solutions, and with powder coatings technology, we offer that. Our powder coatings offers them low VOCs, efficiency gains in application, and it protects the objects we coat, gives durability, longevity, strength, longer over the lifetime of the object. Powder coatings offer a clear advantage compared to other alternatives. We have seen over the past years, European markets, Asian markets, converting in construction, in building, for instance, facades of the buildings, converting from liquid technology to powder technologies. Now we see also North America market waking up for that. We are constantly innovating to expand the scope for powder coatings for new applications. When you apply powder coatings, you have to hit the surface. Now, the lower the temperature you hit the surface on, the more applications you can uncover. An example is powder on wood. Traditionally, we would coat metals, but now we can coat also other substrates different than metals, such as wood. Our powder coatings offer customers in the automotive sector battery protection through the properties we offer. An example is powder coatings which insulates electrically the batteries in the cars. We are investing in innovation, and we are investing in our factories. We have a multi-year CapEx program which we are executing. An example is the recently opened our new Como factory, which is the largest in the industry and uses the most modern technology available nowadays. My personal wish is to give everybody around the world an opportunity to use a sustainable solution to coat. I would like to coat everything with powder coatings.
Well, thank you very much, Daniela. What an exciting story around powder. Maybe just to wrap it up, we're quite excited also about the opportunity that battery coatings with powder and electric vehicles bring to us. We are now qualified with 7 of the largest OEMs on battery-powered vehicles or batteries for those vehicles. And we are quite proud of an IP situation that allows us to now also claim the first patent on an electric engine component that we protect with our powder solutions there. Now moving on to the next growth bubble from the chart of Thierry, I zoom in to a part of our industrial coatings business unit, the largest business unit within the coatings businesses. And I would like to talk a bit about packaging coatings, which has been a tremendous growth engine for us in the past. You can see the significant blue bars here on the chart. We've been outgrowing our market growth numbers here significantly. We are the clear number one inside cans, and we have also recently worked on the beverage end cans business, and that has delivered a significant extra growth, and you see that in that bar chart with a slightly lighter blue color of 3 percentage points just in 2021. Also here we are very committed to accompany the growth of our customers. Just in the next 24 months, we expect around 85 new can lines to come on stream, because there is such a big market trend to move out of plastic bottles, plastic packaging into aluminum due to the recyclability. And that aluminum needs to be protected by high performance coatings that also work with the high speed lines that our customers are operating. And we're very proud of the technology we have there, not just because of the IP situation, but also because we work on constantly pushing the envelope when it comes to sustainability with, for example, our bisphenol A-free technologies there. All right, enough about the fantastic packaging coatings business unit. Let me take you to the next growth area that I would like to talk about, which is our aerospace coatings. You can see here we are the clear number one globally for aerospace coatings. We have had to digest quite a tough time, especially for our so-called MRO business, as well as the new build business for airplanes, as COVID really led to a significant depression in air traffic. We have seen especially our MRO business return very quickly to pre-pandemic levels. You can see that in the blue chart there. So 2021 was almost already on par with the high levels that we have seen prior to the COVID pandemic. The other part of the business, which is basically new build aerospace OEM business, which is the more purple graph here, will still take until 2023 to fully recover or come close to pre-pandemic levels. But we also see a significant turnaround in business for OEMs on the aerospace side. We are also quite proud of gaining share here. You can see some indications on the bottom of the chart, and I'm very proud of our commercial teams to claim that we are now delivering to 8 out of the top 10 airlines globally as the coatings partner there. We are also here pushing the envelope when it comes to sustainability. We have an extremely successful base coat, clear coat technology in the market, and then we are also working on entering the interior part of the aerospace business with coatings. And what helped us here is the acquisition that we have done of the Mapero business, which brings the interior coatings to our portfolio. On sustainability, we are also commercializing new technologies like chromate-free structural coatings for aerospace, and therefore we are very confident that we will see a continued high growth for this part of our business going forward. To give you more insights on this business, we've invited one of our team members, Tammy, from North America, to share some more info with you in a little video. Please roll the film.
I'm very proud of our achievements in our aerospace business. Despite a number of headwinds on a number of fronts, we've won and maintained airlines and OEM contracts through a very difficult period. In fact, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Today we service 8 of the top 10 major airlines, which is really a great accomplishment for this business. We see acceleration in recovery in EMEA and the Americas. Overall, the business is doing quite well, and that recovery is accelerated. More specifically, we see overall growth across the aerospace coating subsegment, with the MRO market coming back strongly as global air traffic picks back up, and recovery in the MRO and general aviation segments really taking the lead for us, where MRO repaints are almost to pre-pandemic levels. And this is supplemented by growth also in our film business, and this was driven mainly by our radar bright film technology. When we look into our base coat, clear coat products, they are still the only ones qualified at all major global aerospace OEMs. And these products have proven themselves in service regarding color and gloss retention, where they're able to keep a gloss wet look finish up to 3 times as long as a traditional single stage top coat. area that we are really making significant progress with is in the non-chrome primer innovations. One of the really neat things about this technology is the marriage of AkzoNobel and Map Aero at the end of 2019 was really a good gateway to accelerating these conversions. Finally, looking at how we service our customers. We provide industry-leading on-site technical service. We also offer hands-on paint school, and we bring innovative solutions to the market with things like our touch-up kits, where we right-size the kits in an innovative package, limiting costs and waste. I see continued growth in our industry, and I'm confident about the year ahead, and that we will continue to win in the market with our excellent products and innovations, along with providing industry-leading service to our aerospace customers.
Thank you very much, Tammy. And as you can all see, COVID and hybrid work is still very much also with AkzoNobel. A big thank you for Tammy, as she had to tape this from her house, and I think she did a fantastic job. Moving on to the last sub-segment that I wanted to bring to you. It is part of our marine and protective coatings business unit. It's our yacht business, a business where we are clearly the number one and where we are enjoying a significant growth, which is helping us on our grow and deliver journey. You can see the market here is segmented into three discrete segments. We have the professional business, we have then the retail business, and then the business of super yachts. And what you can see in the graph below, you can see that we have seen a tremendous growth, especially on the professional side, but also in retail and super yachts. And this is partially due to the fact that as part of Corona, people have enjoyed cocooning to a certain degree on boats, doing safe vacations there, but we also see an underlying trend for yacht coatings to continue to show significant growth. What we have also benefited from is that with every new yacht, with every new boat that gets to be out there, we have a recurring MRO maintenance business. So it's a bit similar to what you have seen on the aerospace side. And that means every 2 to 5 years, depending on what type of boat and what type of coatings, you have a recurring business. And with the brands that we have, and we have the strongest brands in the market, and we've just added another very strong brand with Seahawk by the acquisition of our new nautical business in North America, we are confident that we will benefit from consumers' preferences for the best protection for their loved boats and yachts. With that, another nice movie from Bilal, our business leader here in the yacht space, and please roll the movie.
My name is Bilal Salahuddin, and I'm the Global Business Director for Yacht Coatings. Yacht coatings is a growing segment. Over the last few decades, it has been steadily growing. AkzoNobel is placed at the front edge of this growth with a wide portfolio of brands and the widest access to the market. The yacht coatings is about leisure boats, small and big boats. Over the many years, there's a steady trend building up where people have invested themselves more and more in the hobby of boating, which has caused this segment to steadily grow over the last few decades. Our strong position comes primarily from having the strongest brands in the market, the widest portfolio of products in the market, and being able to serve our customers better than many of our competitors. We have a top coat brand called All Grip, which is such a strong brand that it's almost become a verb. People say they want their boat all gripped. Also, at the same time, we continue to invest to grow our portfolio of brands. So in December 2020, we acquired a well-known US brand called Seahawk, which is now a part of our portfolio, and it helps us serve our customers and our markets even more widely than before. At AkzoNobel, we are focusing on three main areas. One is where our products go, which is above and below the waterline on a boat. We continuously innovate to make our products better and more aesthetic. The second area is sustainability. We are continuously trying to make our products more sustainable to ensure the industry is also more sustainable. And finally, there is the part of application of paint, where we are also investing a lot of resources to ensure this is a sustainable area and there are better and better application techniques every year. In the future, we have to be alert to how the industry is going to be even more dynamic with the new boaters coming into the market. So it is important that we ensure we understand the insights of these customers and we continue to deliver towards those insights in a sustainable fashion.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. Meanwhile, you have joined me here at the table, and let's talk a bit more about those growth opportunities in performance coatings. And I have to say, it's absolutely wonderful to see that there are so many growth opportunities that are related to sustainability. I think that's wonderful. Wondering if you could maybe give us some more detail on your current electrical vehicle business, and also what may that business look like, say, a year from now?
Yeah, thank you, Mai. Clearly, electric vehicles is a fantastic growth segment for us. The forecasts show that light vehicles most likely will be 30% just over the next 5 years in certain countries. So we see significant growth there. Fortunately, we have prepared a very comprehensive portfolio and launched that already in 2020 to benefit from that growth.
Right.
And the portfolio that we have launched encompasses parts of the powder business that you've seen earlier, but also liquid technology to protect batteries and other parts, particularly in electric vehicles or their battery powering pack. So we have high hopes and are quite confident to triple that business until 2023.
Okay. Let's stay tuned for more. Now, of course, there are also coating segments that unfortunately have not fully recovered to pre-pandemic levels. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about those businesses and also when we can expect them to fully recover again.
Yeah, absolutely. You've heard Thierry talk about it to a certain degree earlier. The marine business has suffered probably the most, and to a certain degree, the protective business. The good news is we have turned the corner, if you will.
Yes.
We see with all the aftermath of Corona and now supply chain being a critical topic, a lot of logistics happening, that there's much more traffic on the oceans globally, and that will lead to a significant uptick in dry docking, which is where we repaint those boats. So the marine business will see a very nice turnaround now. We also have the automotive business to a certain degree impacted by the chip shortage, which I'm sure you've heard of.
Yes.
In the news as well. So there, once that chip shortage is more relaxed, which we expect for the second half of this year, we see that part of the business turn the corner as well. And then some other smaller pieces of the business. Aerospace clearly has already seen a significant turnaround. Yeah, but those would be the three major ones.
Right. It's when we can start enjoying life again and being on our yachts and being in airplanes that your business will benefit from as well. Thank you very much, Michael, for being here with me. Now, next to performance coatings, AkzoNobel is also leading in decorative paint businesses. And I would like to invite back Thierry to walk us through the growth opportunities of the decorative paint business.
Yes, let's look at the other half of the universe. For us at AkzoNobel, our decorative paints business, as you know, is not present in North America, but we're very much present in the rest of the world. It's about a 4 billion euro franchise. About 60% of that sits in Europe, Middle East, Africa, where we're a clear number one. And then it's split between 3 regions. In fact, I would say the North and South Asia are sub-regions that are all about equal size. And I'll go to some of the regions in more detail, but you'll see that with the strong brands that you have and the unifying work that has happened on the brands, we actually are enjoying and we're seeing significant market CAGR in those markets, but we also see us to be in a pole position to continue to take advantage of that. What are the mega trends driving the growth in paints? Well, not surprisingly, sustainability, health and well-being is a big driver. This is, in the end, in many cases, a consumer-driven market, although, of course, we sell business to business and business to distribution. But in fact, it's the consumers who decide on what they want to have. And this goes to, first of all, footprint. It goes around indoor air quality. It's a big driver, but also the assurance that's what's marked on the can is also in the can. So that is a big driver in this market. The second element is the do-it-yourself trend. Now, as you know, do-it-yourself is half of the market in Europe. In other parts of the world, labor is somewhat less expensive and therefore there is more have it done for you businesses. But we do see, however, that first of all, outside of Europe, there are some do-it-yourself activities growing. but that in Europe, specifically with COVID and the pandemic, people started to do-it-yourself work, and that is also continuing with the younger generation of do-it-yourself customers across the continent and in a very consistent way. The third element is the digital acceleration. Yes, a lot of our products still go through the traditional distribution channels, and we expect that to be the case for many years to come. But we do see changes coming in for basically more digitized approaches, be it on color development to do it quicker, and then basically choosing the products online to be delivered near your home. A lot of these elements are basically in place, and that is good news for us. And why is it good news for us? Because we have the strongest brands in the industries where we operate. And as a do-it-yourself customer, when you wander in a store, well, frankly, you go to what you know. Who wants to paint the ceiling twice because the first coverage wasn't enough? And secondly, if you do a search online, well, what brand are you going to look for? It's going to be for the brands that you recognize. And the classic case for us, of course, is the Dulux brand and the Dulux family of brands, which has an instant brand recognition in the markets where it's being sold. You see here, in fact, that Dulux is the only paint brand that made it into the top brands in the UK. It's a household name, and in fact, the Dulux dog is one of the national icons in that specific country. But it's not just around the touchy-feely, what is the brand? It's also what we do with leveraging the elements that we have, basically leveraging, sharing across the globe the innovations. The deco market has a lot of local innovations, so we have this whole store of new stuff that comes to the market where another continent, another business in another part of the world can start pick and choose on what they want to put in their portfolio. And you see on this slide a couple of the examples. The Easy Care has been an enormous success. The low scuff product, we were the first in the market, and it's really been taken off quite substantially. The Dulux Promise, the no questions asked return if you have a quality issue, has been a real launchpad in many of our markets. We trialed it out in some test markets, and then we could roll it out in other geographies. You see some of the elements of what we really share between the different markets and what worked, what didn't work, and then of course the ones that work, really try to implement them quickly around the world. And I think it is the success of what I can call a turnaround over the last 6-7 years of this business, where it came globally from a very low profitability to being a high profitable business and high growing, as you would expect from any high branded consumer business with strong distribution. Our decorative paints EMEA business was not one of these darker blue growth market bubbles, but it is almost a quarter of the company. And therefore, questions that may come up, is probably good to tackle them here too, because it is the big player in our portfolio, and we better be sure that it goes in the right direction. As we said, Decorative Paints EMEA operates in a 24 billion euro market. You know what our size is, so in fact we are at about a 10% share if you really compare it in the whole region, so there is still plenty of places to grow. The reduced market growth number that we take for this market is 5%, although currently it is definitely operating at a higher percentage top line versus what we have in these numbers. And we have leading positions around the continent or around the whole region as such, because the leading position in a specific country is determinant for the profitability and the success of the product. The pandemic for us has in fact been a positive. Now that sounds bizarre, but I of course mean a positive only in the confines of our business performance here in this specific case. When we look at the brand recognition, the brand strength, and the data that we got before the pandemic, and the data we got now at the end, hopefully the end of the pandemic, you would see that in some of the key markets, we really have been able to increase significantly the choice, the preference, or the preference for our AkzoNobel deco brands. And that is positive, again, given that do-it-yourself and given that the digitalization is there, people searching online, having your brand being preferred, of course, is a very positive way. Now, why are we so upbeat around the key growth drivers for this market? Well, first of all, we talked about the higher do-it-yourself demand. Some of this was covered in our fourth quarter 2021 results in some of the charts, but what we do see is a consistent mid-single digit higher consumption of do-it-yourself across the region, and it's now been very consistent for nearly a year versus 2019. The younger do-it-self person, the people, say 35 minus, they basically come to the store and they've gotten the hang of it, of basically the cocooning, the having their own home or home office being in a better shape. The element that is a wild card for us for the growth is the Green Deal in the European Union. We believe that at a very minimum, it will be a full 1% volume growth for the market when it comes up. Later in the presentation, you will hear about specific markets where it has been much higher. It's always difficult to find out how the Green Deal is going to impact us, but it is a somewhat not recognized number in all these market share numbers and market growth numbers that we give you. Again, anything you do around the house for environmental purposes as the European Union wants to push ends up in a paint job at the end to bring it back into shape. So that's not in our numbers here that we mentioned, but it is an underlying uplift for our business in the coming 2, 3, 4 years in Europe. During the pandemic, we've done a fantastic job to expand our distribution reach in the countries, and we've also been very, very effective in our brand investment. In fact, we've been able to bring the spend down on advertising and promotion, but at the same time have more productive advertising out there. And how did we do that? Well, every country was doing their own thing. We were working with a zillion agencies around the world, to be honest, and we really went to more build it your own, so you have elements that are being taken to really localize something that has been developed centrally. It gives us much more impact in our markets. Some of the successes to mention here, we have share gains in key markets. I'll come back to that. The Spanish acquisition, we'll talk about in more detail, has been a real game changer for us in that country. We launched about 18 months ago in the UK the Heritage brand, the super premium brand, very specifically tailored with earthen colors, different types of ingredients, etc. And it's been a fantastic success. We wouldn't have believed that we were going to get market share increase in a country like the UK where we were so prominent, but it did happen and at a good margin. The anti-scuff wall paint launch has been a roaring success across Europe. We've gained visible market share in our key markets. And in fact, our online sales, as we said, we've been using the Dulux brand very much as pulling through in the digital, still small but growing segment in our market. So how does that look in a map? And here I'm only focusing, in fact, on the European map to a large extent. And what you see here is the different shades of green in this specific case, where the lightest color is we are at market, the mid color is we are growing above the market, and then the darker green is where we are significantly outperforming the market. This is why we are very optimistic. While the market is growing, so what I'm just saying, and obviously our team has been able to really grow above that market. And the net result, you see that on the right-hand side here, is in fact that although the European market has been growing and has been tapering off a bit in 21, that we've been able to both grow volume and our revenue in that segment. And we talked about how we see this actually continuing in at least 2022, which is also shaping up as we look at our forecasts. This is around paints EMEA, probably good to spend some time given the size and the dynamics in that business. Let's go to decorative paints in China. The decorative paints market, relevant for us, we estimate at about a 6 billion market. The market is growing at about a 6% CAGR between 2021 and 2023. As some of you may know, we really did a reset of that business about 4 years ago. Profitability was not very strong. We had lots of products that didn't deliver profitability. We were dabbling in the project business, besides the retail business, but the project business, high volumes, low margins, sometimes could take 18 months to 2 years to get paid for something. So we really did a complete reset with the team, cleaned out the portfolio to restart on a much more healthy basis. And I know that some of you got frustrated because you didn't see the volume growth, but it was really a reset for what is coming right now. And what's coming right now, you see that in the charts here in the middle. In fact, our Dulux offering is doing fantastically well. It has now been growing years in a row, and in fact about 20+% higher than it was in the basis of 2018. Our mid-tier, the things that go outside of the major cities, is also starting to grow. And by focusing on the smaller project developers that are more regional, more local, make good money, pay their bills, we've actually been able, despite everything that's happening in that market, to stay stable in that project business and making money. The geographic expansion that is happening in China for us is important. We were the big players in tier 1, tier 2 cities, driven by the quality of the products and the indoor air quality that we promise. But with this expansion into other tier 3, tier 4 cities, we've been able to add in 2021 alone about 100 additional cities where Dulux is available. And we added a whopping 12,000 stores, additional stores, where our product is available. But you don't really have to listen to me, but what does a gray-haired old European guy can convey about enthusiasm around China? No better team to tell you and to inspire you than our China team in this video.
在中国市场，我们将通过我们的销售渠道不断的拓展，数据化的工具赋能，还有持续的创新，来实现我们业务的高速增长。我3年前加入AkzoNobel公司，首要工作是梳理我们产品组合策略，还有赋能团队。一直以来，多乐士在1、2线的城市发展强劲，但是我们在下沉市场有很大的发展空间。未来我们将不断开拓3、4、5线的下沉市场，帮助我们的渠道拓展。
我们将通过建立数字化的生态系统，来赋能渠道的拓展和经营，以实现高速的增长。而事实上，我们其实在中国，我们有将近300多个城市已经有建立了员工的体系，整个员工的平台帮助我们招募和运营了将近20多万的员工。那么我们跟他们的连接更加紧密，粘性更加高。我们开发了多乐士的员工平台，我们销售管理平台、经销商管理平台，以及多乐士的小程序和微商城等。
创新一直是我们多乐士的基因。譬如说，我们多乐士的纯零护敏儿童漆是个中国首创涂料产品，获得国际认证，对哮喘还有国民人士的友好。同时，中国长沙儿童园也使用我们产品，也是对我们产品一个很好的肯定。多乐士产品获得建筑涂料中国绿色产品认证，还有中国绿色建筑产品最高级的3星级认证。它是涂料产品环保性要求最高级的国家级的认证。目前49%的多乐士产品都主打这个环保功能的。多乐士换生服务凭着5天标准化的服务体系，获得中江协科技进步2等奖。
我们对中国充满信心，因为我们有巨大的潜力的市场，我们有高效的团队，以及我们有忠诚的经销商。我们相信我们在未来在中国一定能成功。
中国市场容量大，增长稳定。多乐士品牌在中国扎根多年，有高效的团队，我们很有信心将我们Growth and Deliver的目标达成。
So really great work from the China team. And by the way, anybody of you who is watching who has an off day, I would recommend you what I do is then just have a video call with Mark Kwok, and you basically are uplifted for the whole day because the world is too small for where they want to put paint on. Interesting here from the video is that the team, and for us, we've taken Deco China as our kind of lighthouse project, I would say, for digitizing in the distribution. It's a must to be present in China. And in fact, the tools they have are so far ahead that we now start looking at how we can use them around the world, because this is really handheld, mobile, digitized way of doing business that frankly is front and that we have to use to our advantage given our position in China. From China, let's move on to another area, and this is our decorative paints business in Latin America. Latin America for decorative paints, again, the relative market where we operate in is about a €4 billion market. It has had a relatively ongoing market growth of 5%. And we see that in a more negative case, the haircut case, I would say, is still continuing. We have a #1 position in Argentina, a #1 position in Uruguay, a very close second in the meantime in Brazil, And we have now, with the acquisition of Grupo Orbis, we have now a view on becoming the clear leader in Colombia with strong distribution network in Central America, which will also, by the way, have a knock-on effect on our performance coatings business in that region. It's hard to say what we are not doing well in this region. The business has been looking at getting their brand architecture in place, their distribution in place. They went to a franchising system in Brazil with the Blue stores that has been wildly successful in gaining market share at very good margins. And it's clear that step by step, they have really chopped away on becoming the preferred choice for painters and customers across that region, and at very good margins. Again, a real tribute to that team, given the political, given the exchange rate issues that are unfortunately so typical for that region. But again, why have me talk about Latin America? Let's look at Daniel Campos, who's our leader in that area, to explain in the video how we are driving success there.
Aqui na América do Sul, em tintas decorativas, nós temos conseguido crescer à frente dos mercados e aumentando margem, criando mais valor aos nossos clientes, através de 3 iniciativas. Através do desenvolvimento do segmento premium, através da expansão de lojas com melhor experiência ao consumidor e através de um investimento maior nas nossas marcas para aumentar a preferência de consumidores e pintores. Um grande exemplo de como a estratégia está funcionando está aqui em São Paulo, e eu estou aqui no Bazar das Tintas com o nosso cliente Ricardo, que é o dono da empresa.
Hoje nós estamos aqui em São Paulo, exclusivamente vendendo tintas imobiliárias. Possuímos hoje 12 lojas próprias, 25 franquias. Nosso principal parceiro é a AkzoNobel, há mais de 60 anos, parceria muito forte. Cresceu muito nos últimos 4, 5 anos a parceria, com muita credibilidade. É o principal parceiro, com aproximadamente 75, 80% das nossas vendas, produtos Akzo. Nós tivemos um crescimento muito interessante na linha Premium nesses últimos anos. Eu acho que muito em conta da mudança das lojas na renovação do Blue Store, o foco do negócio voltou totalmente para a linha Premium, tanto da Akzo quanto do Bazar das Tintas. A segmentação ajudou o consumidor a estar mais próximo dos produtos, entender melhor o mix, podendo o balconista oferecer produtos de melhor qualidade e o consumidor conseguir entender isso mais fácil. A linha Decora foi uma surpresa, com um crescimento de mais de 160%, junto com os volumes também, que cresceram 60% no mesmo período, e financeiramente crescemos 90%. Então, eu acredito que o trabalho foi bem feito nesses anos, focando a linha Premium e focando os volumes. Eu acho que conseguimos algum resultado. Eu sou sempre otimista também, eu espero que a gente continue crescendo juntos. Eu acredito muito na parceria. A vontade nossa de crescer, eu acho que ela está ligada diretamente proporcional à vontade do nosso parceiro crescer. Então, o parceiro acaba puxando a gente junto e a ideia é estar junto por mais 60 anos, se possível.
Eu sou muito otimista com relação ao futuro, porque a pandemia vai passar, mas o desejo das pessoas de cuidarem melhor das suas casas é algo que vai ficar. E nós vamos continuar trazendo inovação, investindo para expandir suas lojas, investindo para fortalecer nossas marcas.
A very good story indeed from Latin America, and a very highly profitable business for us. And in fact, the Blue Stores concept that was explained in the video is so successful that in fact one of our large competitors there has been starting to do something similar, and for some reason also came up with Blue Stores, which is a bit strange to us. Very good story, and in fact a very high growth story. So with that, we went to the performance coatings growth elements that Michael has explained. We looked at the decorative paints businesses and a very healthy dynamic in all of the segments that we're operating in. And this is the underlying driver for the 350 million of bottom line increase to the growth that we will see in 2022 and 2023. Again, I want to remind you, whereby Orem Boss talks about an 8% growth in the business's compounded average growth rate, we have based our full plan on 6%, and then added in the additional 1% for the specific growth markets we just ran you through. So we're very, very confident about the growth elements we just outlined for 2022, 2023, but also way beyond.
Thank you very much, Thierry, and I would like to invite you back to the table to join Michael and myself to talk a bit more. Welcome back, both gentlemen. Lots of success stories that we heard. Thierry, how do you look at the retail segment and the consumer health in China, given recent headlines in recent
correct.
months?
So first of all, if we look at the markets in China, I think everybody, every observer looks at a somewhat lower GDP progression than it has been in the past, so that is part of our plans. Secondly, there's of course a big reset in the real estate project market. But as I try to explain, we are very low exposed to that. If you go back to 2017 and 18, yes, we were also somewhat wrapped up in the volume game. Lots amounts of low-end putties and all sorts of fillers that we were selling. Fantastic to get the plant running, but there was no money in that. We stepped out of that. In fact, we had to explain 3 years in a row why we weren't growing like everybody else, because we stepped out. That was on a volume number, but it was also then if you go on how you get paid, again, 18 months to 2-year payment terms were not an exception. So cash-wise, it became a bit of a joke, to be honest, to be present there. So the team has really cleaned it out, has focused on retail, and in fact then going to tier 3, tier 4 cities. Now, what we do see is that the continued rise of the middle class in China, the fact that the real estate market may have basically quieted down a little bit, but that was mostly the project basis. In fact, our team locally is pretty upbeat on the ongoing growth, in fact, in the retail section.
Wonderful. A next question, maybe for both of you, but let me start with you, Michael. Given the growth opportunities, how are you equipping and investing into the business to support all this growth?
Yeah, thanks, Marije. I think partially I have touched upon that in my presentation already. So you saw me talk about us tripling our capex, for example, for our powder business. So clearly a big component to accompany the growth has to do with making sure we have enough capacity. So for powder, there's a huge plan in place. Something similar, maybe at a slightly smaller scale for our packaging businesses, and then for all the other parts of the puzzle. On top of the capex, we are also investing a lot into the digital space, as Thierry has alluded to, especially on the customer-facing activities. We're also investing into our advertising and promotion budgets, and also into our sales force and our own teams. So I think that covers most of the investments that we plan to do.
Yeah. Anything you wish to add?
Well, maybe in addition to that, I think, Marije, and that's actually the section on the deliver part, to be honest. We do come to realize now that we have a full view and that the processes are in place, we have a lot of self-inflicted constraints in our installed base that we have already. So in fact, a lot of the deconstraining of what we have, over and above indeed the investments, etc., is going to do a lot to be able to continue to fuel for this. I mean, so there we feel pretty comfortable. That's part of the plan, by the way. So it's not we're going to do this if we can do more.
All part of the plan.
Part of the plan.
Yes. Another question for you, Thierry. For the growth forecast, you reduced market growth from initially 8% to 6% in your plans. Can you explain to us why did you do that?
No, but it's a good question. And in effect, when again, as I alluded in 2022, early days, but it looks like the base growth trend that was given by external consultants might indeed be correct. But to be honest, and we had that also in 15 by 20, a plan that only delivers the promise when everything goes according to plan is not a plan. So what we did is actually take a haircut on it, a quite significant haircut. In fact, in here we took the 2% down. We haven't really penciled in anything for the Green Deal, which we know in Europe for Deco will have an effect, and then you have other elements in different businesses. Because we also are aware that, okay, there are assumptions around how we keep our prices and our margins, to what extent we will keep them. There's a lot of speculation around inflation, are interest rates going to go up, and therefore is consumer confidence going to go down, etc. So we felt it was safe to put in maybe a bit of an over-negative haircut in the whole element to stretch the other elements in our plan so that we have a buffer and don't have to come with explanations why it wasn't, but can explain why it was after.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much for clarifying that. And thank you both for being here with me.